Hey everyone, welcome to Write On, the podcast from Final Draft. This is the show where we talk about all things screenwriting. I'm your host, Phil Galasso. On today's episode, we have an interview with Michael Starburry, showrunner of the new Netflix show, Colin in Black and White.
Life puts us on a path, sometimes narrow, sometimes winding, but always ours. When we're young, we're told that the world is ours, that we should figure out our path and take our shot. Then one day, we realize that the game we're playing is someone else's. In this game, we can't speak our truth. In this game, it feels like the only choice we have is theirs. But we can change the game. We can write new rules, radiate our joy, take back our power, and find our purpose.
Guest host Sharday Sellers and Michael discussed the importance of chemistry in the writer's room, how the writers related personally to Colin Kaepernick's story, Michael's previous work with Ava DuVernay on When They See Us, and more. Check it out.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It's Sharday back again, and I am here with my pseudo friend from Twitter, Michael Starburry. Hi, Michael.
Hello. What's happening?
How are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. I'm so excited to be able to speak to you in person because I've been following the inception of this show since it was announced a couple of years ago, right? Like, what was it? 2021, 2018, 2019?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Can you take us through, because all of our listeners are basically aspiring or current screenwriters. Can you take us through what the process is to get here today and having the show premiere in a few weeks? Like, where did you join the process of Colin in Black and White?
At the very beginning. So Ava DuVernay, she asked me, or she mentioned that Colin Kaepernick wanted to do a show. And she called me and she said, Mike, I want you to run the show. And I was like, cool. I had never done that before, but I wasn't scared. So I just did it. And so I was in there from the beginning, from the inception. They had some ideas. Colin and Ava had some ideas of what they wanted to do with the show. And, it was kind of up to me to turn those ideas into TV.
Just the legacy of Colin Kaepernick. I'm not even a football fan, but I know about his career. How do you even start? Like, where do you even begin outlining or drafting with someone who has such an extensive resume, but also is such an important cultural icon for not just football, but for civil rights movement? With the conversations with Colin, it's like, where are we starting? We're going to go back in time. Like, how do we land on what the meat of the show is going to be?
Well, that's interesting because initially what I wanted to do was just kind of talk about him as a kid all the way up through college. I didn't want to touch anything that happened after college. It was just going to be kind of a coming of age, through college. As things went on in the writer's room and, in the business in general, we were mandated to talk about, I got the bandwidth of high school only. So that wasn't a choice that I made. That was a choice that was, given to me. That wasn't, this is what it has to be. So we landed on talking about or telling stories about Colin throughout his high school years.
And then I actually want to talk about the writer's room. So your first time EPing, you have to build this room up. Where do you start with that? Is it people are you out there reading samples?
Both. I read a ton of scripts. Ava had a couple of writers that she liked for it. They were put on, but I read a ton of scripts. And even for the people that I knew, they had to send me scripts too. I didn't give anyone a job. They earned it. So yeah, it was a lot of reading, a lot of reaching out to people and, trying to put the right team together, because for me, more important than any kind of experience in the room is the chemistry in the room. If you can write and you're good people to hang out with and you can elevate, each other, the stories, you're cool to be around, you understand that it ain't all that serious. then you can rock with me. You can be in my room. And that's what we had. We had A+ chemistry. And I think that's why it worked out so well.
What was the makeup of the room? Women, men, with background?
We had Terry and Raynell, 2 women. Natasha was our writer's assistant. Me, Joe, Evan. These are all Black people, by the way. So I don't know if that makes a difference to your listeners, but
no, the listeners love when the rooms are diverse and spread out.
I mean, other than Terry and Raynell, but Natasha also did some writing as a writer assistant. Maisha was in there. Raul, I think Raul's from Spain, but he was the coordinator. So yeah, I mean, it was a very diverse. I mean, mostly diverse room. Mostly people of color. I wouldn't call it diverse. I'll just say mostly people of color in the room.
And I want to ask, because with Colin's childhood, but also with all those people in the room that have different experiences, how personal, how deep did you get with these writers and pulling out some of these stories? Like, I can almost imagine it's like a therapy session.
Yeah, it was. He told one story that absolutely made me cry. I was the only one crying in the room because I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I don't care. I will cry. He told a story that absolutely broke my heart. Unfortunately, I did write the script for that story, but it's not in the show because it didn't fall into the high school years. But it absolutely broke my heart. It was therapeutic. It was, sitting down with Colin and having him tell some of those stories. I mean, some of them were hilarious. Some of them were heartbreaking. It was very touching. I think all of us, we were moved by it and inspired by him.
And I do want to ask, you probably can't answer it. Maybe you can. What is it like to work with executives on notes about something that is so personal, especially to the people in the room who have lived experience? Like, where's the pushback with notes where you may go, okay, we need to do this? And where's the, okay, they're right, we need to accept these notes? This
is going to sound maybe crazy, but the notes weren't bad. Honestly,
that's promising.
Well, here's the thing, though. Because I hear a lot of people, complaining about notes or being disappointed about notes, when at the end of the day, we all have the same goal. When you're dealing with Netflix, it's not like you're dealing with a studio and then the network. You're dealing with the people who are going to put it on the air. When you're coming off of When They See Us, you have a certain amount of trust. I believe that they trusted the team. They had thoughts on it, but no one was ever trying to push anything other than trying to make the show better. I recognized that when we got the notes. It was never, we can't do this, we can't do this. It was more trying to understand what we were trying to do. And our job is to make it as clear as possible, not just for Netflix, but for the eventual viewer. So it's the notes process with Netflix was a partnership more than anything. And, so I have no complaints about that. I've been given difficult notes before, but I will say that a lot of that has to do with how new I was to the game as far as how to execute those notes, and probably some insecurity on my part. But the longer I've been in this, the more I know, and the quality of people that I'm dealing with, it's really not about anything other than we're all trying to reach the same goal, and that's to make great television or films. So it wasn't a tough process at all.
It's very lucky. I guess I have a lot of friends who have the exact opposite experience that you have with some of their networks. I want to go back into the writer's room before we get into the shooting of the show, because I think I heard you mention that your writing or assistant or the script coordinator got to get an episode.
Yeah, the writer's assistant. She didn't get an episode. She worked with some writers on one, and I think she ended up with a story by credit, I think.
That's wonderful. Was that a decision you made in the moment? Did you already knew that when you hired her? Because we have a lot of listeners who are writers assistants who always say we would just love an opportunity to be able to actually, be a part of the process rather than just note taking.
She earned it. You know what I mean? Like, she earned it. It's not really anything I did. I paid attention to what she was bringing to the table. Natasha is a good writer, and she deserved an opportunity. I just happened to be the person who was there when she got the opportunity. I think anybody would have recognized it, but that's why she got it, because she earned it.
What was the biggest lesson you took away as an EP from the show?
That's a good question. So for me, a lot of it was, again, I'm a chemistry person, right? Chemistry means the most to me because going into it, I even told the writers, listen, I'm not really concerned about you trying to emulate my voice or anything like that. I read your stuff. You're here because I want you to bring what you bring. And I also said at the end of the day, I'm less concerned about, what you're bringing to the table as far as like trying to be like me, because I can be like me. I will take the scripts and I will make them work, worst case scenario. But I never had to do that because everyone, we together found the groove and the tone of the show. What I learned is, I think if you put good people in the room together and they really care about what you're trying to accomplish, then good things will come out of it. I wasn't really looking for TV writers. I was looking for people who could write TV, which there's a distinction. I was being sent scripts from written by writers who had written forever in television. They were on that show, on that show, on that show. That doesn't move me. Move me by what's on the page. I would even ask them specifically for scripts that they thought didn't make any sense in this marketplace. What I was getting was a lot of the same scripts with different writers' names on them. There's a lot of sameness right now in Hollywood. So I was asking for, unique voices, and please send me something that you may not send as a sample to, a network or, CBS or NBC. I don't want to read those. Send me the thing that made you excited about hiring that writer or being working with that writer in the first place. So I was looking for unique voices, and I think I found some. And also, just got along on a personal level. and that was a big deal too. It makes it work. It makes going to work easy. It wasn't very challenging in that way. We all had each other's back. Anytime there was a curveball, we worked on it together as a team to hit it.
And let's talk about the shooting of the show then, taking all of that chemistry from the room and having to apply it now to actors and background artists and stunt people and whatever. Did you bypass the pandemic part of shooting? Did you get everything in before shutdown?
No, as a matter of fact, I was at home watching dailies via pics as it was being shot. And Ava directed the first one, but we had an incredible DP, Matthew Lloyd, who was, he was there for the whole shoot. And we had different directors for each episode. And somehow, some way, because of the core team, the core production team, we made it work. We made it work. So it was in the heart of COVID, and everybody on set was masked up and taking tests, and it's not the easiest conditions to make things in, but kudos to those guys. They made it happen.
Did Colin ever come to set and did you feel pressured of like, okay, you're watching the scene of you as a kid that I wrote. Do you like this?
Colin never came to set.
Oh,
it was, listen, it was a challenging shoot. It was a challenging shoot, and I completely understand that. But we got nothing but positive feedback along the way from Colin, who's an incredible team member. And the cool thing about him is he's so prepared. He knows what he wants. He knows if it feels right, but he's also a good listener. He might have his opinion on things, but he'll understand the process.
Yeah.
What I mean? So it was always amusing for me to talk to him after he had seen something, especially if it was something that he was in, like the real Colin, but like one of his moments in the show. It was always fun to, talk to him after that and see how he was feeling, because, I think he really got bitten by the acting bug during this.
Oh, I would love to see more Colin Kaepernick on the screen. It must be so surreal to sit there and watch like childhood videos of yourself, but they're not childhood videos of yourself. They're like the actor, which I want to talk about. I remember seeing on Instagram when this actor was announced. So what is it like going through this audition process to find these kids to emulate such an icon?
Ava, she did most of that. Like, she filtered out most of the actors and, sent me, her and the casting director sent me a few of the kids, and we all love Jaden. There were some super talented kids, like super talented young dudes. Jaden just kind of fit, tall, lanky, goofy kid like Colin was. And, so it was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but, he kind of stuck out. I thought it was cool that, we all kind of agreed that he was the kid. He was the one.
And I want to ask about your relationship with Ava, because she chose you, she entrusted you, she picked you for this. Mm-hmm. Where did this relationship cultivate, and how did it grow to be where she's saying, hey, you need to run this show?
She read a script of mine back in the day called The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete. And she met with me on a different job. It was, I read this book that she was wanted to do called The Battle of Versailles. This was at HBO at the time. I think it still may be. She was looking for a writer for it. I read the book. It's crazy because it's about a fashion show. And I met with her and I talked to her. I said, this is what I would do. And I think she was surprised that, me, like someone who looks like me, would want to write a show or a movie about a fashion show. And I don't know. We just kind of clicked after that. It was a great meeting. We clicked. She talked to me about Battle of Versailles, and at the same time, she was doing a movie called Central Park 5. And so, I go off to write my drafts of the Battle of Versailles, and I'm literally the day she called me about Central Park 5 at the time. I'm working on it. She's like, "Hey, do you want to write the finale of?" At the time, it was called Central Park 5. It ended up being called When They See Us.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I'll write, the finale of
wow.
that would be great. And so I ended up, writing that and then doing some polishing on the other scripts for When They See Us. And yeah, we just been kind of cool. I think she just respected, how I work and my writing. And then we just became kind of friends because you are dealing with each other. So much when you're working together. So, yeah.
But the one thing that stuck out to me that you said is that she read something you wrote, right? Because no one can really know you exist as a writer if you don't have a finished product to tell them that you exist. So I want to ask, what advice do you have for aspiring screenwriters out there in terms of sampling and working and trying to navigate through this industry?
This is always tough because I never want to come off as this is the way you do it, right?
Yeah.
It's always, there's so many different ways you can make it, I think, because even when you say writer now, it feels so different than when I was writing. I started to write, I didn't take writing seriously until, I don't know, no one knew who I was. No one cared about who I was. I grew up in the projects in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Not a person in Hollywood would have ever heard of me. I moved to Minnesota. That's only a little closer, believe me. Nobody's ever heard of me. All I did was write. Just trying to get better, entering, fellowships until I started to win those fellowships. And then I would go to like a screenwriters conference and meet people and become friends with people. And ultimately, it was a friendship that helped me get my start because I sent my script, Mr. and Pete, to a friend who worked with George Tillman Jr. And we sent it to George Tillman Jr. George called me a couple of days later and said, "I'm making your movie." And all of a sudden I had a career. Yeah. But not only did I have it was all of a sudden to the people who didn't know me, but I had been working and writing and failing in obscurity, which is, for me, the best way to do it. A lot of people like to fail loudly. I was writing shorts and shooting them that no one will ever see. Because my whole goal was to be a director. I didn't learn how to write to become a, Emmy Award nominee screenwriter. That wasn't the goal. The goal was just to, get better at it so I can make my movies. And that's still what I'm going for. Things are going very well for me on the writing side, but my goal is still to be a director. Yeah. I still want to direct things. So it's difficult. And that kind of leads me to what I would do though, because it's a little bit different now. I think that it's easier for someone like me to get my attention if you had shot something, like if you're making stuff, or even if you just write it and someone else made it and I watched it. Yeah. To me, that feels like the way to get noticed. But, you got to you got to put yourself out there in a way where decision makers
Yeah.
Are going to somehow, some way. And that's the thing. That's what I mean. Like, I wouldn't know how to tell you how to do that. I did it my way. I did it my way, but it's hard. My manager's telling me how hard it is now for even some of his established writers.
Yeah.
It's tough right now. So I'm going to keep it 100 and say, I don't really know what I would do. but I wouldn't stop writing though.
Right. There you go.
And that's the difference between, when George Tillman, when we gave him Mr. and Pete, he asked me, Mike, do you have anything else? I was like, yeah, I got something else. That script that I gave him got me my manager. My manager was like, do you have anything else? I was like, yeah, I got something else. That script got me my agent. So I had 3 things ready to go. One of those things is right there, got me into Sundance, got me a meeting with Michelle Obama, a private screening at the White House. The other one ended up on the blacklist. The other one was shot as a pilot at Comedy Central. I'm just saying I was ready.
Yeah.
I trained myself. So I wasn't going to not be ready. And all the no's and the naysayers and the, how tough it is. That's what, for me, that's what I was trying to say. It wouldn't matter at the end of the day. That's all I'm saying. Like how tough it is. Like, I think people are like, never tell me the odds or whatever. I think that's like an Indiana Jones quote. Like, yeah. Okay, that's real.
Everything that you said, it's honestly is so real. It's 100% because I'm actually one of those kids, one of those writers that benefited from a contest. My career got started because I was a finalist. I didn't win, but I was finalist for a contest and they made the movie that I submitted. It happens in different pathways, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same token, you're absolutely right. It was because I had another sample that got me my manager. It was because I had another sample that got me my entertainment lawyer. So it was the fact that we had backup work to go with these things as well. I think is so important to hear. You gave such wonderful advice, non-advice to everyone else, but I want to know, what advice would you have given yourself, your younger writer self, like the Michael from 10 years ago, if you could talk to him? Yeah.
So I would say to him, that's actually 10 years ago. It's kind of perfect because that's really when things started kind of happening for me. I would say, dude, they're going to offer you so many jobs on writing staffs. You already know to say no. just like you did. Like that's the best thing for you. Say no, keep saying no. Know have your own goals. Don't let anybody like gas you up and tell you that you're doing great, when you have your own measurement for greatness. I'm one of the lucky few, I think, who can look back and say that I had a plan, and I can't control the yeses and nos in Hollywood. Yeah. I can't do that. But what I can do is I can make adjustments for myself in order to reach my goal. And like I said earlier, becoming a screenwriter at this level wasn't necessarily the goal. But in order to get to that place where I want to be, and I think people thought I was joking because I tweeted that the Emmy was great, the overall deal at Netflix is great. It's not really, I'm doing it all just to become an independent filmmaker. And I can see people just being like, what? Well, that's my journey. Yeah. That's what I want to do. I love screenwriting, but being a filmmaker, I guess that's what I would remind myself, like, don't forget that that's what you're doing this for. You are a filmmaker. And people have no idea that as talented as they think I am as a writer, I am a much better filmmaker. And they will see that soon enough. Yeah. That's the goal. I
love it. That's actually my goal too. My whole reason of starting the screenwrite was because I wanted to be a writer and director of my own stuff. So I love that you're reminding me, because I do get presented a lot of jobs. I also produce on the side, and I get sidetracked for years. And then I always forget to come back to that original goal. So this is really great advice for me as well. Thank you. Well, Michael, this has been such an amazing chat with you. I've been following you on Twitter for so long, but it's really, really nice to be able to meet you and to just hear your sage wisdom you have to offer. I'm excited for the rest of the world to see Colin in Black and White. Are you nervous? Are you ready? Are you apprehensive?
I'm ready. I think it's going to be a polarizing show. That's kind of given with Colin Kaepernick as the subject. But I'm ready. It's weird because in TV, I'm already 2 or 3 projects into something else, and this was not even out yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you kind of move on. But I'm excited for the world to see it. I'm excited for Colin, because people will get to see a side of him that they have no idea about. I'm not sure, my goal wasn't to go in and change anybody's mind about him, but just to lay it out there, like, here's some more information for you. If you still want to hate after this, at least you have more information now. So that was the idea going in, but I think people are going to love him because, Jaden did such a good job. It's a fun show. We had a good time and I'm excited for people to see it.
And on that note, Michael, thank you so much. Everyone, please make sure to tune into Netflix. I believe it's October 29th.
That is correct. Yep. October 29th.
October 29th for Colin in Black and White. Michael, stick around. I want to ask you one more thing, but we're going to wrap up the show here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Michael Starbury for coming on the show and to Sharday Sellers for hosting. Colin in Black and White will be streaming on Netflix on October 29th. And as always, thanks to you, our listeners. If you liked this episode, leave us a review, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. For news about new episodes and more, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Final Draft Inc., and on Instagram at Final Draft Screenwriting. This podcast was produced by Kayla Guess and co-produced by Emma Vranich. Editing is by Sean Bonnet. Music is by T. Kelly. Thanks again, everyone. Until next time, right on.